Aleph. We are at the two dots in the middle of the narrow section. Avram, who Avraham. Originally he was called Avram. He was born Avram. They gave him the name Avram, and he became Avraham. B'tchila nasa Av la'Aram. Originally he was the father of Aram. V'lesoif nasa Av l'chol ha'olam kulai. The Hey is because he's Avraham, the father of the entire world. Sarai, he Sarah. Sarai became Sarah. B'tchila nasa Sarai lo Masa, because Sarai is like the singular, like levavi, as opposed to the plural. So b'tchila nasa Sarai lo Masa, but as nasa Sarah l'chol ha'olam kula. And then she became the Sarah from the word of like a ruler of the whole world.
Yitzchak and Yaakov is Avinu. So
right.
What in there?
Well, we spoke about Yaakov. Yaakov became Yisrael. Yitzchak didn't change his name, but the other two did, right? Yitzchak's the only one that he changed. He stayed the same. Tani Bar Kapra. Now, Bar Kapra said, "Kolakayla Avraham Avram." If you call Avram Avinu, Avram, it's a lot easier to say Avram than Avraham. It's like a whole extra syllable. It's like it flows Avram, right? Over be'esei, you're over a mitzvah's essay. It's also. It's also to say call someone Avram if his name is Avram, or to call Avram Avinu Avram Avinu. Shnema v'haya shimcha Avram. Your name will be Avraham. So you're over a mitzvah's essay. Pretty drastic.
Like a short name like Avumi or something like that?
So l'chayra you're allowed to give a nickname, l'chayra, but the problem is the question is if you call someone, let's say I had a teacher's name was Avram. Are you allowed to call the name Avram? Maybe, just don't say he's named after Avram Avinu, maybe. Like Avram is the name.
Avram.
Avram?
Yes.
There's Amram, Avram. The name's out there. But if you call Avram Avinu Avram, that's a problem. So you're over an essay. Shenema v'ayishnucha Avraham. Tani, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, sorry, over belav. It's not an essay, it's a lav. The difference is, essay means it's a mitzvah to call him Avraham. And you're over an essay means you didn't do the mitzvah. It's like you didn't shake lulav today. You didn't do a mitzvah. It's called you being over an essay. But if it's a lav, it means it's not. You're not allowed to call him Avram. It's you're over a lav. Shenema v'lo yikaru ayishnucha Avram. Your name will no longer be Avram. So it's actually a los essay. If that's true, if you call Sarah Sarai, you should also violate this lav. So Gemara says no. Hasam kudshabrichu omala Avraham. Hashem told Avraham that her name's don't call her Sarai, call her Sarah. He didn't tell Klal Yisrael. Sarai ishtacha leitikar shema Sarai ki Sarah shema. Hashem says, don't call her Sarai, call her Sarah. So therefore, we are allowed to call her Sarai. You're not ever allowed if you call her Sarai. If that's true, you should not be allowed to call Yaakov Avinu Yaakov. You should call him Yisrael. Why do we say Yaakov? All the time we call him Yaakov, Yaakov. The Torah is full of Yaakov. You're right, but since the Torah itself goes ahead and calls him Yaakov, it says, Hashem said to Yisrael in the Maris Halayla in the night, Yaakov. Hashem said to Yaakov, Yaakov. He didn't say Yisrael. So you see, Hashem himself calls him Yaakov, even after he changed his name. How do we say this pasuk every day in Shach? Say, Atu Elokim, you are God, that you chose Avram. You don't say Avraham. How do we say this? How do we call him Avram? If you're over a lav, you're over an essay. Amalei, Hossam, Navihu. So the prophet is actually saying over a story that Hashem chose Avram. He didn't choose Avraham. Hashem chose Avram, and then he made him Avraham. So the Navi is just saying over what happened. He's saying over the story. We're not calling him Avram. His name's not Avram. The Navi in this pasuk is saying that he chose Avram. He didn't choose Avraham. His name was still Avram. Okay. Hadron Alach Meimusai. Finished the first parak in Shas. Unbelievable simcha. Wow. Wow. Mazel tov. Vacation, right? Take the day off. Says the new Mishnah. The guy's reading in the Chumash. You open up your Sefer Torah, you're reading in the Chumash, and he gives man a mikra. And it comes time to read Kriya Shema. That's what it means. It becomes time to read Kriya Shema. Rashi says Zman Kriya Shema. Others say it means that he's reading and he gets to the parsha of Kriya Shema inside. Right? That's what it means. Not much of enough coming, I don't think. Im kivein liboy yotza. If you have intention, determination, what's the word? If you have intention to say Kriya Shema, you're yotza. You're yotza. Beprokim. Now, new din. So, the first din is, you're reading in the Torah, comes time to say Kriya Shema. If you had in mind to say to be Yetz Kriya Shema, you're Yetza. Right? Makes a lot of sense. No, you need to have intention. So you see from him, mitzvah srichas kavana, you have to have intention. You're reading anyway, but you have to have intention to be Mekai in the mitzvah of Kriya Shema. So, says the gemorah, the prokim shall be covered. In the middle of the chapter, you can ask someone, how you doing? If you have respect, out of respect for the person. If you have to have respect for the person. That's baprokim. Rashi explains what does baprokim mean? Beinaf sakos. In between the chapters, where you're allowed to have a hefsek. And the gemorah later on says, Rashi says, L'kamim fash, bein pash v'shayna l'shniya, bein shniya l'shma. It actually means between the first chapter, the three chapters we read, between the first and the second, between the second and the third. So what's the din? Between the first chapter and the second chapter and the third chapter, what's the din? You're allowed to say to someone, oh, how are you doing? If you have out of cover for the person. And you're allowed to also answer. If someone who you mechabed says to you, hi, shalom aleichem, you're allowed to answer. While in the middle of a sentence, if you have fear from the person, you can ask, oh, shalom, how are you doing? And you're allowed to answer, divrei Reb Meir. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Huda Rabbi says, no. Covered. Between the prokim, you're allowed to ask if you have fear from this person, and you're allowed to answer if just out of respect for someone. But you can't, let's say, ask out of respect. Uba prokim in the middle of the sentence, but between the prokim, you can answer out of respect, and you can answer shalom to anyone, even no respect, no fear, you're allowed to answer. So first of all, what's going on over here? And the Mishnah is going to say what's prokim, what's not prokim. What is Mpnei HaKavod, what is Mpnei HaYira? Before you go any further. So, Rashi says, Mpnei HaKavod, take a look in Rashi, it's like the sixth line in Rashi. What's Mpnei HaKavod? Shayel b'shalom adam nechbad sheroi lahakdim le'shalom. There are respectable people out there, there are honorable people, and if you pass them, if they pass you by while you're saying Shema, you should say to them first, it's out of respect, you don't ignore a person, you say, Shalom, how you doing? Shalom, right? So, if there's someone respectful passes in front of you, you can say Shalom to him. The Rambam says that's not what it means covered. Rambam says covered means someone you mechuyev to be mechabed. Someone there's a biblical obligation for you to be mechabed. Like your father, your Rebbe, your Talmud Chacham. That you mechuyev to be mechabed. And you have to show him respect. So if that person passes by you, you have to say Shalom. Okay, Machlokes is Rashi and Rambam. What does it mean with Pnei HaYira? If it means that you're allowed to answer in Pnei HaYira, you're scared that Rashi says, take a look in Rashi, with Pnei HaYira, skipping out 3 lines, in Pnei HaYira, Adam shu yoreh mipanav shelo yaguhu. You're worried that this guy is going to chop your head off. King walks into the room, you're saying, Kriya Shema, Shalom, Shalom my king, right? Peace unto you, my king. And you're saying it because you're worried that this guy's going to chop your head off. Not a happy ending. It doesn't mean you're scared he's going to, steal, take money from you. It doesn't mean you're scared he's going to bash you on the nose. It means you're worried this guy's going to chop your head off. There you are. So everyone else doesn't understand. Pikuach nefesh is doich everything. Of course you can answer that Yira. Like there's nothing that you can't do because of Yira. You can be Michal Shabbos because of Yira. If you think the guy's going to kill you, Pikuach nefesh. If you're worried for your life, then it's doich everything. Like what's going on over here? It's like it's a good kasha. It's a hard kasha to deal with. So what someone want to say is that the Shas says that it doesn't mean you're worried he's going to kill you. We're not talking about a king that goes around chopping people's heads off. That's not the story over here. It's just as someone who's way more violent than you, someone stronger than you, and if he wanted to chop your head off, he could. You wouldn't stand a lot. You wouldn't be able to defend yourself, right? So even though it's unlikely that he's going to do it, and there's no reason to assume he'll chop your head off just because you ignored him, well, maybe he'll be insulted. The general idea is that, listen, he'll say, I said to you shalom and you ignore me? I don't like that, I'm going to chop your head off now. But you'll explain to him that, sorry, I was talking to God in heaven, I couldn't answer, I'm not allowed to talk. You explain to him and he'll let you go. Oh, I didn't realize. There's a good explanation.
Which is why they say that someone, I forget.
So what he's trying to say is that pikuach nefesh, it doesn't mean pnei yira, it doesn't mean there's actual right now, deathly urgent reason you have to answer the guy. There is some type of fear. Even though any type of suffix pikuach nefesh you can be over, but it's not really a suffix. It's in the parish of suffix. You have to dance between the dots here and say it's not really pikuach nefesh. Otherwise, anyway, you could do anything basically because of pikuach nefesh. But there's a reason to be scared. Okay. Take a look in Taisus, the top Taisus, before we go further in the Mishnah. Haya kaira im kiven libayotza, right? So, Yerushalmi Amin and Brachas Eidin Ma'aklis. The gemorah Yerushalmi says that if you said Kriyashma without the Barichos Kriyashma, without the blessings, you're Yaitza. And l'chaira, it would appear that our gemorah is clear about that.
We learned that here too, didn't we?
Oh, we're going to see in a second. Very good. But here you see clearly, our Mishnah says, you're reading inside, that you open the Sefer Torah, you're reading, you're Yaitza. You didn't say any brachas, right? And so Yerushalmi, it's a Poshet Din. Dafakav shloya mashtar lefnei shtar mechrei yotza. Because if that's not the case, if you need to do the blessing before you say Kriya Shema, how does that help you? Either way, you didn't say the brachas. Says Taisus, ve'im taimar. Taisus has a kasha. This is what you were talking about. We just learned a couple of days ago. Say that brachas ein ma'akvis, are brachas ma'akeves. The seder of the brachas isn't ma'akev. You don't have to get the order right, but you have to say the brachas. That's what it said about. We learned from the Kohen Gadol, from the Kahanim, that the Kohen, they told the Kohen, say one of the brachas Kriya Shema. And we learned from that you could say one of them without the other one, the seder doesn't make sense, but you have to say a brachas Kriya Shema. The bracha is ma'akev. So Tais has a big daichik. Tais says, Yesh leimar, tosam ayr b'tzibur. There is talking about when you say Kriya Shema and it's Tzibur, and some explain what it means is when the Chazan is being made to you, then you have to do it with the brachas. But what the Rishonim will want to know is over here, what's the Havamina? What's the assumption that you need to say bracha to be at Kriya Shema? The Torah says say Kriya Shema. Chazal said you have to say a bracha. Why would you not be Yaitza without the bracha? I said Kriya Shema. What's the assumption that you need to say the brachas to be Yaitza? It makes no sense. If you shake lulav without saying a bracha, were you Yaitza? Yeah. If you said in a sukkah, you didn't say bracha l'shem sukkah. Did you do mitzvah? You did. So why is it that the gemorah Taisus has an assumption that if you don't say brachas Kriya Shema, you weren't Yaitza? Why not? What's the difference?
Your mindset.
So it could be.
Now, if the Rambam said something.
Huh?
Go on.
So what someone want to explain is that the Birchas Kriya Shema, you're not saying Ashek Shalom says if it's on the Birchas Kriya Shema. That's not what we're saying here. You don't say Ashek Kedishanu, a short bracha, Ante Lulav, Leisha Basuka, Alachilis Matzah. That's not Birchas Krishma. Birchas Krishma is this whole long 3-page thing. Yitzar, Vayachayshech, Kaddish, 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 the whole Akdama. So that's the way Chazal Masak in the Tefillah. And with part of Krishma. So it could be you won't Yitzar anything with it. Like once they were Masakin, it's not just the Ashek Kedishanu B'mitzvah itself. They said they made this whole long bracha. So you have to do that bracha in order to be Yitzar. That's the Havamina. Without that, you're not Yitzar anything. You're not even a Daraisa. Chazal Masakin. You've got to say it. They want you to say this whole long piece. It's not just like about getting in the bracha before you do a mitzvah. It's all part of, like you're saying, it's the whole kavanah before. It's like the whole, you're pumping yourself up before you say Krishma. It's the whole, Avarabba, Avasalam, Yitzar. And just get in and say Krishma, you Yitzar. No, the Chazal want you to get into the mode, get into the zone. That's what it is. Okay. Interesting kasha. Says the Gemara. Says the Mishnah, back in the Mishnah. Back in the Mishnah, okay. Elohen Bein HaProkim, second wide line. Elohen Bein HaProkim. What does it mean, Bein HaProkim? In between the chapters. What does it mean? Between the first, Ben Brach Rishayna L'Shniya, or Ben Shni L'Shma, between the first bracha and the second bracha, between the second bracha and Shema, and Ben Shema Levahaya. Those are your 4 Bein HaProkims. Between the first bracha and second bracha and Shema and Vahaya, and Ben Vahaya and Vayomer. Those are your Bein HaProkims. Between each bracha and between the chapters. Sorry, Ben Vayomer ve'emes v'yatziv. And then afterwards, between Vayomer and emes v'yatziv. V'yudaimer, Ben Vayomer emes v'yatziv lo yafsik. Don't stop over there. Emes v'yatziv. That's not a place to stop. Okay, machlokes. Omri b'shu bekarcha. Lama kodma parsha Shema leVahaya b'Shemaya. Why is that the order? Why does Shema come before Vahaya b'Shemaya? The reason why you first say the parsha of Shema and then parsha of Vahaya b'Shemaya, because the first parsha is talking about accepting on yourself the yoke of Ol Malchus Shemayim, the yoke of heaven. The second parsha is talking about doing mitzvahs. You can't do the mitzvahs without having the yoke of heaven. So you're first supposed to accept on yourself the yoke of heaven, and then you can learn, then you can say, accept on yourself the yoke of the mitzvahs. So Vahaya B'Shemaya v'Yomer, Shevaya B'Shemaya noig ben b'yom v'layla. So why does Vahaya B'Shemaya come before Vayomer, which is talking about tzitzis? Shevaya B'Shemaya noig ben b'yom v'layla. The yoke of the mitzvahs applies day and night. But tzitzis, Vayomer, you only put tzitzis on during the day. There's no mitzvah tzitzis at night. It's a machlokes if pajamas are part of tzitzis, or any clothes you wear during the night are part of tzitzis. But for some reason, Rashi brings the tzad that beged laila is part of tzitzis. Only pajamas are part of tzitzis. But if you wear regular clothes at night, you're chayiv in tzitzis. The Pasha says is that we paskin any clothes you wear at night are part of tzitzis. Okay, so so it says the Gemara. What do we see from this Mishnah? Shma mino, you see from this Mishnah, mitzvah svichas kavana. You see from here that you need to have kavana when you read. It's not enough to read Kriya Shema by itself. You have to have kavana to do the mitzvah, right? If you didn't have kavana, you're not Yitzah. That's black and white. So ask the Gemara, mine kiven likrais. What does it mean if he had intention to read? Likrais v'kakari, he's reading. If he has intention to read, he's Yitzah. It should say if he has intention to be Yitzah Krishma. The Mishnah says if he has intention to read. Im kiven liboy likrais. He's reading. He's already reading. What do you want from the guy? So the Mishnah is talking about a case where the guy is reading in order to check the text. And then you don't read properly. You don't say Shema Yisrael Hashem Ken Hashem Echad. You read Shema. Right, hold on, is that good? Yeah, Yisrael, yeah, Yisrael. You don't read it like it's written. You're just saying the words here and there, you skip some, you repeat some. So you have to have intention to read it, to be Yetza, Kriya Shema. Tanarbanan. Kriya Shema Kichsova. You should read Kriya Shema the way it was written. Divrei Rebbe. Meaning, in Hebrew. Lashon HaKodesh. You can say Kriya Shema in any language. That little letter says that's halacha, I guess. You can say Kriya Shema in any language. My time at the Rebbe. Why would Rebbe say it has to be said in Hebrew? Amakra v'hayu. It says in the pasuk v'hayu advar ma'ilev. V'hayu. What does it mean v'hayu? B'havayasan yiyu. It should be like it was. B'havayasan. It should be like that. Stay the same. For Rabbanan, my time, why do Rabbanan say that you can change it to any language? Amakra. It says Shema. It says listen to what I'm telling you. Shema b'chol lashon shata shema. Any language you understand, say this. So the Rebbe Nami Yaksiv Shema. How does Rebbe understand? It says Shema. What does he do with the word Shema? Rebbe needs to tell me a different din. That you should say the words in a way that you can hear it. Don't just say it loud enough that you can actually hear what you're saying. I don't know what that volume is, but it's got to be able to reach from your mouth to your ears. For Rabbanan say, no, you don't have to be able to hear it to be Eitzah. So they don't learn from Shema. Okay. For Rabbanan Nami Yaksiv Vahayu. So why do Rabbanan not learn from Vahayu that it should be in Hebrew? So they need this to tell me a different thing. Vahayu means it's got to be as it was written, meaning not in Hebrew. You got to read it in the order it was written, in the Chumash. You can't go ahead and read it backwards. You can't do one possible. It's a machlokes. What does it mean? What are you allowed to change? What are you not allowed to change? Maybe we'll see. Rebbe, how does Rebbe know you can't read backwards? Nafkalei, it says midvarim hadvarim. There's an extra hey there. It could say dvarim. It says hadvarim. So the Rabbanan dvarim hadvarim loy dashi, and the Rabbanan don't learn out from that extra letter hey. Okay. So what is this lemafreya business? What does it mean you can't read lemafreya? Does it mean you can't take the psukim out of place, or means you can't put the chapters out of place? Now, what you'd say is, it says in our Mishnah, that's being alright. Our Mishnah says, you read in the Chumash, you're Yetza. Now, in the Chumash, Tzitzis Parsha comes before the other two Parshas. It starts with Tzitzis, then it goes to Shema, then it goes to Vayim Shemaya. So Tzitzis is out of order. So L'chaira, some want to say, you see that it's no problem if you read the chapters out of order, because this guy in the Mishnah, he read it inside, and he's Yetza, even though it is Lemafreya. He read first Tzitzis, then Shema, then Vahaya, and he's Yetza. The Mishnah says as long as he's Mechaven. So you see that the chapters is no problem. So what does it mean? Therefore, you can't read it out of place. It means the sentences. You can't put one sentence before the other sentence. It's not enough to say all the sentences, jump it up, do a little Scrabble game and just read each sentence. You got to read the sentences in order, but you can change the seder of the chapters. Others want to say no, you can't bring a rye from the Mishnah Tzitzis. Why? Because Tzitzis is only with the Rabbanon they added. The first two parshas are Doraisa, L'chaira. That's what we're going to say. L'chaira looks like in Taisus, Rishonim, telling the first two parshas are Doraisa. The third parsha, this is the Rabbanon. So just because he read Tzitzis not in order, that doesn't mean anything. That you don't have to read that for Kriya Shema, Mikra, and for Midin Torah. And the other two parshas you read Keseda, so yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Question is if there's a raya from a Mishnah. No, it's machlekes ha'paiskim. If you can bring a raya from a Mishnah, it can happen. You're reading, you're sitting there davening, and you're like, well, I read Vahaya Shemaya, but I don't think I said Vahaya. The first parsha of Kriya Shema, we're going to see, according to some shittas, you have to have kavan in the first parsha. So can you now squeeze in, after you say the second parsha, can you say the first parsha now? Let's see what mechavan. Can I stick in the first parsha now? I don't have time to now say the whole second parsha. The second parsha is a lot longer. Can you do it? According to some shittas, yeah. According to the Rambam, the only problem is the Rambam says you just can't change around the psukim. You're allowed, Rambam's mefurish, you're allowed to, the din of the mafreya is the psukim. You can move the parshas around. That's not ma'akav. I guess you answer Tzitzis. Maybe the Rambam holds you can bring a raya from here is getting lomdish, you can bring a right from here that the Rambam holds that tzitzis is deraisa. Otherwise, how's the guy in the Mishnah Yetzer?
We know it's deraisa.
Sorry. Tzitzis, the pash of tzitzis is deraisa. When you read the pash of tzitzis is deraisa, and that's how the Rambam knew. You can change the order of the Mishnah of the. That's the Rambam knew. You can change the order of the prakim, because otherwise, why is the guy in the Mishnah Yetzer? Says the gemorah. This is complicated stuff, huh? Says the gemorah. L'meimer de sova Rebbe, the chala Torah kula nemra, kula b'chalosha nemra. Does that mean? Do you want to come and tell me that anytime you read anything in the Torah, you can say it in any language? So if you're reading, let's say, Kriyas Torah, doing Kriyas Torah, you can read it in any language. Why would you say that? If you think that you have to read the Torah only in Hebrew, so what you need a pasuk to tell me that has to be in Hebrew. Everything has to be in Hebrew. If everything has to be in Hebrew, then you don't need a pasuk. The creation has to be in Hebrew, right? Everything has to be in Hebrew. Everything has to be in Hebrew. So do you want?
Or you can do it from Torah in Hebrew.
You're not reading any psukim there. What's the kasha? So you know what? He needs that pasuk of Vahayu. Since it says Shema in Kriya Shema, you might make the mistake that Rabbanan hold. He's saying you might think that now it's a Shema, you can say any language. Comes along Vahayu to tell me no, it's got to be Dafka in Hebrew. Not because everything else we say in Hebrew. So, and next line. Are you going to tell me, does this mean that the Rabbanan hold that everything has to be said B'Lashon HaKodesh? Everything is in Lashon HaKodesh. If you think that everything in Shul you have to say in any language, why do you need to tell me the pasuk Shema? Do you have to say Shema you can say Shema in any language? You can say everything in any language, right? Elamah, the Mashmai says that you could say everything only in Hebrew, and Shema comes tell me everything is in any language and everything's in Hebrew, but Shema has to be said in Lashon HaKodesh. Sorry, lehefech. Everything is said in any language. Shema comes tell me you could say Shema in any language you want. So Itzrich Mishum Dechsev Vahayu. So he says no. Since it says Shema Vahayu, it turns out they both agree with both Joshes. They both agree that you can learn from Vahayu, that has to be in Lashon HaKodesh. They both agree from Shema that you can say in any language. The question is which one came first. Is Shema come and say you don't have to do, and is Shema come and say no, it doesn't have to be Vahayu, it can be in any language, not Dafka in Lashon HaKodesh. Is Vahayu come tell me, don't listen to Shema. You might think from Shema you can say in any language. Vahayu comes tell me, no, it's got to be Dafka in Hebrew. That's the question. Which one came first, the chicken or the egg? They both learn both Joshes. They both learn the mashmois of both words is either Lashon Kodesh or B'chol Lashon. The question is what's coming to uproot which one? Which one came first? Shema Vahayu. So, okay, good kasha. So just take a look we've got another minute. We'll take a look at Taisus. Take a look at the third Taisus. B'karei lagia. The gemorah said we're talking about a guy who's writing. He's what's the word lagia? He's fixing the text, right? What's the magia? Magia. He's like fixing the text. He's a scribe. Rashi says, what does it mean b'karei lagia? He doesn't have intention to read. Shtai says, Tema, I don't understand. Akati, Akakari, who cares if he has intention to read? If he's reading, he's reading. What difference is it? Why do I care if he has intention to read? If he's reading, he's reading. You have to have intention to read? He's reading, the guy's reading.
No, but you have to have intention to fulfill the mitzvahs.
No, he's saying, you don't have to have intention to be Mekayim the mitzvah. You have to have intention to read in the Shita. You don't have to have intention to be Mekayim the mitzvah. You have to have intention to read. So if he's but the Mashmai says he's reading, And if he has intention to read, now he's yaitzer. The guy's reading. What do I care if you have to have intention to actually do the physical action? In other words, there's a method to read Kriya Shema. So there's two options. Either you just, or three options. Either you, not thinking of anything, you're saying the words, you're reading inside, you didn't even know what you're saying. Or you think to yourself, I'm going to try and now be Mekayim this mitzvah. Or a guy says, I want to actually say the words. I'm having intention to say the words. It's not just, you're not just like on autopilot. Rashi seems to be saying, autopilot doesn't work. You have to think to yourself, okay, I'm saying the words. Rashi says, I don't understand. Who cares if you have intention to say the words? Intention to do the mitzvah, that I understand. Intention to say the words, you said the words. Where do you see that you have to have intention to say the words? There's kavanah to do mitzvahs, there's no kavanah to say the words.
Without having intention?
Yeah, the guy's reading. So let's see. In Taisa's answer, I think you'll understand better the kasha. When the guy is doing the hagar, when he's fixing the text, he's not reading the words properly. He reads it like it's written. Kedei lahavin b'meseres or yiseres kamelet tafais and mezuzais. So when the guy's like a scribe, he's copying words down. He doesn't say tafais because that's not how you spell it. So a scribe, he says tatafot. He doesn't pronounce it properly, so that when he writes it down, he doesn't make the mistake and write it with the extra vav. He doesn't say tafais, and then he's going to write tafais with a vav. He says tatafot, and therefore he's going to write it down the same way he says it. A good trick, Tais is saying how to make sure you spell things correctly. Say it like it's spelt, and you're going to remember how it's spelt, right? Vim kiven liboy lav dafka. It doesn't mean you have to have kavanah to say the words. Of course not. Kavanah to say the words doesn't help. He has to have kavanah to say the words like they're supposed to be pronounced, as opposed to like they're spelt. That's what Taisa says. You have to have kavanah to actually say the words the proper way. That's what the gemorah means. So what's Rashi going to do? Someone has explained in Rashi that what Rashi means is that if you just said the words, you didn't have intention to say the words, you're reading like, sometimes you don't even know sometimes someone says, you're like, oh, did I say that out loud? You've heard people say this? Did I say that out loud? It's like a thing. You think you're reading, like reading a book, and then your wife's like, can you read quietly? You're like, oh, I didn't realize I was talking, right? So here, the guy is reading in the Chumash. It's misasik. It's like misasik, the Achronim say. The guy's reading inside. He doesn't even realize he's saying the words. And someone says, you realize you were saying that out loud? Oh, no, I didn't realize. I was actually saying it. So then you even have intention to speak. You were speaking without intention to speak. So that's what the Mishnah says. That's not good. You have to have actually intention to speak. It's like, say it clearly, use your oxygen, use your airs, use your diaphragm, whatever it is. Get the words out. Okay, that's how they understand Rashi. Thank you. We'll end here. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. It's